Welcome to the Sales Mastery Summit. I'm Mary Pohl, your host, and with me today is a longtime top performer, Charlie Roth. Welcome, Charlie.
Hi, Mary. How are you? Good to be here.
Well, I appreciate it. There is so much that we can learn from you because you're really in a profession, sales profession, that can be churn or burn. And the fact that you have figured it out and really excelled in advertising and sponsorship sales for 20 plus years now says a lot. So I can't wait to find out what we can learn from your success.
The first thing is always to be prepared. A plan, a plan, a plan. I was lucky enough in my local sales back when I first started my career to say, you don't know how to achieve something if you don't know how to get there. So I think, and in our business, everything is transactional. It's very, what have you done for me lately? How can we get this done now? But I think as a sales professional, it's your obligation to set some time to actually figure out how you're going to get there. And then that kind of takes approach to time management, tiering with your accounts, all that, and preparation, and the planning is very key as well.
Okay. So when you're talking plan, it's not necessarily your call plan, how you're going to handle a call. You're starting at the big picture goal setting for the year and working back.
Yeah, listen, any organization always kind of has like annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals. And I think as an individual, you want to look at yourself as a self-driven business. Obviously you're working for the company and the company comes first, but, what I got to do to achieve my goals? If it's just achieving your budget, if it's exceeding your budget, you take it from the top level, looking at 12 months, 6 months, 3 months. And for me, as basic as my brain is, I try to break it down by week and by day sometimes.
Okay. So I'm sure you've had trial and error over the years of figuring out a planning style that really works for you. So what have you figured out there?
Yeah, so the thing that you kind of learn is it's great. Everything looks wonderful on paper, but unless you really apply it and really pull out the resources that are going to have you be successful, it doesn't matter. So a word I love to use and probably overuse is action plan. Okay. Where instead of just, there's a lot of salespeople that could probably present and say, you know what, Mary, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to get there. And while you're listening to it, it sounds like a great plan. But then if it's forgotten about the next day, there's nothing applied. So for me, actually taking an action plan and using it more as a template versus just as like a reference, where I look at it literally every week, where it's tracking phone calls, organizational charts. A big one is birthdays that I've kind of thrown in there that really, that's one thing Jonathan London kind of, thought was, clever and different, because that's one thing I told him that was definitely a driving force of, building up my contact list and being able to grow an organizational chart. Okay.
So what is on your weekly plan that you've really nailed down?
So the way I do it is that when I start it, I try to start with just a tiered system. You look at your business for accounts that you already have in-house that are running, and first and foremost, how to grow them. And taking the different resources you have internally or whatever kind of medium you're selling, and just taking that from, say, $1 million account to a $2, $3, $4 million, $5 million account. So that's like, the tier one, where something that's already in the house and how we're going to make it bigger. Number two, and probably more important, is new business. Just new business is the safety net for any salesperson. As long as you can drive in new business, you're always going to be employed. And it's really the lifeline, because clients come and go, budgets shift. I remember when I was in the broadcast side for many, many years in, the late 90s, all we heard was, yeah, it's just 10% off the budget. We're going to like this little thing called Comcast. Don't worry about it. And when it was 5%, and it went to 10%, and, we know where they are today. Yeah. So, the last thing you want to do is be complacent on an account you have. You always have to garner new business.
Okay.
And then the last one is I always look at is one of my favorite books is Moby Dick, and always looking for that white whale.
Okay.
So you have like your accounts that are established that you're trying to grow, always bringing in new blood with new business. And the last one is looking at that major account that is going to take 3 to 6 maybe months to garner and grow and cultivate, but then it's going to have pay huge dividends on the back end.
Okay.
So kind of look at that, you start with that. I can go to my boss or someone in my organization and say, here's a list of my daily activity that I'm focused on. Here I'm trying to grow these accounts. I'm working on getting new business, and here's the big prize I'm working on.
Okay.
And then from there, you break it down. I'll break it down by account and say, okay, here's this bucket of existing accounts. What are they currently running on us? What's working? What could be more? And that's really where Jonathan London's Spring Dialogue really comes into play, where you just, you take it to the next level and really try to find out more priorities. What could we be getting more of? Specifically on the new business. I've been really successful breaking new accounts in the digital space.
Okay.
Directly from a result of John's Spring Dialogue approach.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do with that?
Sure. So Spring Dialogue is in essence a way to get information from a client and having, again, a pre-planned agenda. So Spring, S is situation. You always want to start a meeting or at least address like what you're here to do, what you're here to accomplish. So we come in and says, Mary, it's good to be here today. Say we want to learn more about your digital goals. What's important to you. We want to also show you what Travel Fusion can do. You kind of set the agenda so the person you're meeting with knows exactly what you want to accomplish today.
Okay.
Next, out in the spring would be the PRI, which is the priorities. And simple questions like, what's most important to you? You come across and you work with so many different salespeople where, it's, hey, Mary, how you doing? I got a great thing for you. Listen to this. Before you even know what they're even interested in. And I think, that's a nature of a type A typical salesperson where they just want to talk, but, it's much more important to listen and find out exactly what that person is looking for.
Right.
So you have the S is set up, PRI, priorities. The N is needs. So for new business for us, if there's because our space is so crowded, if there's a partner of ours that's doing something for them that they want to see more of, we say, hey, listen, we know you have a partner that you're being successful with, but if there's one thing you could see more of, what would it be? And that opens doors for us, where if they say, well, I could love to see more back-end analytics. I'd love to see more conversions from my online e-commerce. And then all of a sudden it opens areas. Says, well, you know what? Here's our solution for insights. And then you kind of go down the selling process. We're like, if I could provide you these insights with the price that you require, could we possibly get a test campaign? So now you really, not that you corner the person, but you really narrow down what they're looking for, and it just increases your close ratio.
Okay.
And the last one is goals, which is more of a personal one and really more set up for a one-on-one, a very small intimate meeting, not more of like a lunch and learn or group, where you say, hey, listen, if we do this deal and it's successful, what does it mean to you? Is it a promotion? Is it a bigger budget next quarter? And I kind of like that because it's something out of the box, and it really puts that personal touch that this person probably doesn't get a lot, because usually there's transaction. They're saying, hey, where's this? Where's that? And if you just stop and say, hey, what does this mean to you?
Right.
What's valuable to you? What's going to happen in your career for this? Sometimes you get mixed responses, but usually it's, they get stumped a little bit because they never really thought about that. But then it stays with them, which is good.
Really smart. We had a previous top expert at the summit, Kevin Allen, talking about the hidden agenda. And it sounds like you've really weaved that into your work.
Yeah, so spring is great, and then obviously planting the seed, is another one that you just kind of like when you ask a question and you already kind of know what the answer is going to be, and you want to lead that person, down the path. Spring really allows you to get the nuggets of information that allow you to start thinking in the back of your head, what's going to be my next step? What can I continue to push her down the sales process to get eventually a closed deal? Okay.
And for our viewers that aren't familiar, Jonathan that Charlie is referring to is Jonathan London, who is also one of our experts at the Sales Mastery Summit. So thanks for sharing that. We'll have to make sure that Jonathan knows how much you appreciate.
Yes, we were lucky enough to have him come in as he's done multiple segments with our entire sales organization,
Okay,
and it's
super.
been fantastic.
So, Charlie, it seems like even though you're a veteran, you always keep yourself in learning mode. How do you continue to keep improving?
I think the first thing is never be satisfied.
Okay.
You want to make sure you're always thinking, how can I improve? And I think what drives me is I always know there's someone like me around the corner. Whether it's entertainment, whether it's, you just know if you're doing a good job, there's someone out there who's going to tell your client they can do it better.
Hmm.
So I think it's, going back to, those tier one accounts. So, you never want to get complacent. You always want to push the envelope and see what you can do. And not just the sales, get the order, shake the hand, and let it run. Whether you're in broadcast, print, outdoor, digital like myself, always trying to expand. Whether that's, getting to meet different levels, maybe meeting the client face to face. Just always something to keep, pushing the envelope to get you more entwined within that specific account.
Okay. Well, Charlie, this might not be a fair question because you sound like the type of person that's wired to not get down. But do you ever get down in the sales process, and how do you help yourself recover?
Yeah, I mean, listen, uh, where I'm human like everyone else, and of course, you're not going to get good news all the time. I mean, you can do, everything right from presentation to follow up to addressing priorities, everything in the quote unquote sales, textbook, and still not close a deal, and that's just part of the game sometimes. There's some things, and it's not easy. I think especially for people that, they judge themselves and their career on yes or no, like it's closed or it's not. But I think what I've learned over the years is to really focus on the stuff you have control of,
Okay.
and not the things you don't have control of. Certainly when I was younger, I wasn't very good at that. But I think as I semi-matured over the years, you get a sense that, you could not waste energy on things that are out of your control, and most importantly, always have, again, like the action plan that I usually do for all my accounts, next steps, like if you get the deal, great. But and again, not to be complacent, say, okay, close this deal, want to, follow up with advancing on this solution. If you didn't get the deal, say, okay, one, figure out what was the main driver for us. Did they switch dollars to traditional? Did they go to cable? Do they not have a website set up? Things that are out of your control that, and then maybe you move that account and they say, hey, listen, we love digital, but we don't allow pixels yet. Come talk to us in 6 months,
Okay.
right? So instead of banging your head against the wall, you say, okay, I moved them from a tier one to maybe a white whale now, and they kind of drop a little bit on the priority chart, but you don't waste any more time, trying to, figure out how to close them when it's just out of your control.
Okay. So you manage your pipeline really effectively.
Yeah, I mean, the pipeline is the lifeline of any salesperson.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 4-to-1 ratio for, people, some say you want to have 4 times what your budget is, and if that gives you anywhere from a 30 to 50% close ratio, you should hit your number. But we've been pretty successful as a company within like the 50 to 60% close ratio,
Oh.
which is good for us, and I think for any organization.
Yeah.
But some of that is always skewed because there's people like myself that you can't send out enough proposals. I think a proactive proposal is something that's may not get looked at all the time, but I think at least as long as you're pushing the envelope, it could spark an idea or it could spark an opportunity. If that person, things come down so quickly here, it might be the difference of saying, you know what, I have this in front of me right now. I don't have to pick up the phone and call somebody.
Mm.
So, I try
Okay.
to get a proposal with every meeting I get. So I might have like a bigger pipeline, but at the end of the day, I know that I could afford to have a little less of a close ratio because I have a bigger pipeline built up.
Okay. So how do you cultivate your attitude of success? It sounds like you rely on your planning and really drive yourself through effective activities. And so how do you cultivate an attitude of success through your day?
Like if you come in, if you had a bad day the next day, you can come in and that day can still linger. But if you come in, you have a set agenda, right away you get refocused, and you say, okay, let me do closure on this account and know what I got to do the next steps, whether it's a week, 3 weeks, or 3 months, based on what the client and you have decided. And then right away you jump into something new, because that action plan is right there. So you really don't have time to get too upset or too down on a current loss, even though as emotional as it is. But the beauty of sales is that emotion can turn very quickly, because that phone may ring or you may get that email back that you weren't expecting. And again, without the plan, you won't be prepared for that. So I think being prepared and just planning and always having a set agenda of forward progress. I remember one of my bosses told me one time a very basic saying, emotion is motion, creates motion, and just, I think that high energy and just, don't let it get you down kind of mentality is really what has been helpful for me.
Okay. Well, you sound incredibly disciplined about managing your work day, but like everybody else, I'm sure distractions are being thrown at you left and right all day. So what have you figured out to keep your focus and manage all the distractions that come at you?
Yeah, again, I think it just comes down to priorities. You're always going to have fires, I mean, that's just the nature of our business. There's going to be clients that need stuff yesterday. And I think if you're not up to those challenges, you won't, it's probably not, the sales isn't probably the right thing for you. So
Okay.
I think you have to be a person first and foremost that excels on having too many balls thrown at you at once. And it's your ability to kind of catch the ones that you have to immediately and maybe grab the ones and hold on to them that you can dribble for a little while before you actually have to execute it. But again, I think it's just time management. I think that's a lost equation in a successful salesperson where you can have a salesperson that is just really good at presentations, but he's terrible at managing his time.
Okay.
So eventually that's going to catch up. You have a salesperson that's really good at building presentations and maybe not so good on face-to-face meetings, but they have excellent time management. I think that you can't have one without the other. I think it's it really needs to gel together. But time management is just it's presentation skills, communication skills, ability to convey a message that people understand. Those are all top traits that quality salespeople share or other people look for. But I think time management kind of gets lost in that shuffle as well, because it's really, really key. Because you got to know what's going to bring you back the best return on investment. And of course, if something comes down the day of, you have to go into crisis mode.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, it's just time management and planning and doing what you have to, in pecking order to just keep yourself, on the same line and focused.
Well, I like the way you lay out your work plan too, because if that's the pressure you put on yourself rather than the outcome of your work plan, then it does help you prioritize, because
Yeah.
getting that through that work plan for the day is really how you feel good about what you accomplished.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, regardless, you give yourself your own internal goals.
Mm-hmm.
You say, listen, you can't really influence all the outcomes, but as long as you're going to do, 1 through 10 on your list today, you've had a successful day.
Right.
And listen, more times than not, through diligence and hard work and consistency and persistence, and asking the right questions, hopefully you're going to sell more than lose more. But at the end, and that's going to, again, the roller coaster is going to be there for all salespeople. But as long as you have your agenda and you could close the light off at night and say, you know what, I took care of my action plan from 1 to 10 today, and then tomorrow you have it set and you're able to get right back onto it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you think of any ahas over your career where you were kind of doing things wrong and you turned it around and you said, "Ah, this is so much easier"?
Yeah, every day. No. I mean, there's been a couple. I think one, when I was younger, I think you certainly wanted to, say more than say, just say words without having really what impact, So I think as you get there, sometimes you get to that point where you say, you know what, I'm better off sometimes to just shut up and let people listen, or let myself listen.
Yeah.
And not talk. I think that was, when I was just young and just kind of, going full stream ahead, you really never stop and listen, you know.
Okay.
And I think that's something that, you know, takes just experience and time when you're in different situations and in client presentations. But I think that not just me, I'm sure that happens, I think for a lot of salespeople that, you know, once they get to the point and they say, you know what, it's much more valuable to get that information and to have knowledge before you start to sell your solution or product or, you know, whatever meeting you're saying. And then the other one probably is the birthdays. You know, some people here, they goof on me because they, you know, they call me like, you know, the birthday Hallmark guy. But I remember I was in Detroit and I had a client that was tough to get through from an automotive, and I just remember met someone in the party and they were like, oh, tomorrow is so and so's birthday, and I just happened to be in the lobby waiting to see someone else, and this person walked by, and I was like, hey, how you doing? I go, by the way, happy birthday. And it changed. Her eyes lit up and her frown and growl went to like a smile. And sure enough, I got an email yesterday saying, why don't you come in next Tuesday? And yeah, I went in there and did my work. And before I left, I go, I just have to ask. I go, you know, when it changed all of a sudden that you returned my email where I've been trying to reach out to her for 6 months. And she goes, you remember my birthday? She goes, that's something no one else and everyone does. And ever since then, I always added a column in my my organizational charts, you know, and you know, your organizational charts is your currency. It's what separates you from everyone else in the company, because those are your contacts that you have built and cultivated. You know, all at different levels, from VP to planner to assistants. They're all valuable in their own way. But I always have a birthday list, and you know, I try to update that, and you know, I'll build it into my calendar so you know, we could plan for, you know, a party. I think sending a thing that says, hey, happy birthday. I think it's something that's unique because everyone has one. You could really get through to someone in a genuine way. You know, I know in our business, you know, giving gifts is a big part of it, and some people get a little, you know, a little stale at that, where they think it's just because you're trying to get money out of them. And at the end of the day, that's true, but you want to treat that person as a person too, not just as a, you know, a revenue pick, you know, pick on your sheet. And I just started doing it, and it helped me really get, you know, more appointments, and open the doors with people that, you know, if you send an email just to say, hey, look at my product, hey, I saw your ad doing this, we could do this, you know, they get 1,000 of those a day. But if they get 3 birthday messages, which is from the boyfriend, mom, and you know, they're probably more likely to get back to you.
Right. I like it. So
Yeah.
how long have you been recognizing birthdays?
Probably since I just started leaving. I left broadcast to go into cable for a short time. I really started. I was running the sales department at the TV station in Detroit, and it's something I did like the last couple, you know, months before I got promoted. And I just started doing it with our staff, and said, listen, like here's a you know, project for everyone. Find out what your clients' birthdays are.
Okay.
You know, and at first they're like, well, why? You know, but as it gained momentum and people started to see, hey, it's amazing what a birthday gift does, or it's amazing what just a simple email. You know,
Right.
I mean, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to go over the top and send a bottle of Dom Perignon. A simple email saying, hey, enjoy your day. You know, I know you haven't talked to me in 6 months, reaching out, but hey, happy birthday. It's, you know, it's amazing how, and sometimes you switch the tables, all of a sudden they feel guilty because they're like, hey, this poor guy's reached out to me for the last 3 months and he still remembers my birthday. I'm going to make sure I at least send him an email.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been real successful for me here on the digital side, where coffee meetings are very popular. You know, nothing's really, not really lunch and learns, and the big meetings are important, but taking an iPad and position it as a, hey, let me treat you to a coffee break. You know, do you prefer a morning boost or an afternoon caffeine fix? Let me come take 15 minutes of your time. And, that's where the spring dialogue comes to play. And it's more of a one-on-one. You're giving them a break away from the office. You get to send some quality FaceTime, and you really get that information for the next steps. And then maybe from there, you can cultivate that into like a team lunch and learn or a formal meeting.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, since you've learned so much over your career, what do you do to mentor others and help them learn from your successes? It sounds like you already did that in Detroit at the station.
Yeah, no. I always try to look at myself as I guess like a sponge, where a sponge, you want to absorb as much as you can around you, but always maintain your original form. So, when I try to mentor, younger sales execs here, I'll go through, and I think it's important to go through like the core structure of things that, have been successful for me or other salespeople, having an ample pipeline, making sure you have, 3 to 5 face meetings a week, like all the things that are basic. And the beauty of sales, you can take those structures and say, hey, if you do these things, you'll put yourself in a better position to be successful each quarter. But then let that person put their own spin on it. Maybe one person's more analytical, so they want to do things that more suit their talents. Maybe someone's more outgoing, so they want to, set up more entertainments and stuff like that. And that's all fine. But at the end of the day, is if you're doing your pipeline, your meetings, your action plan, the core fundamentals that make you successful, that's really what I try to push. I never want to say to somebody, well, this is how I did it, so you have to do it too. Because, that's not the fact. I know sometimes organizations would love to have a bunch of robots going out there spreading the brand name, but the beauty of sales is everyone's individual, has different abilities, approaches, styles, and that's why I love this business. But I think the sponge is probably the best tangible takeaway.
I love that metaphor, and
Yeah.
It is crystal clear why you are recognized as a top performer, Charlie. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, and I'm sure just through this video you're mentoring so many other people that you may never meet.
Well, Mary, I appreciate it, and I look forward to doing it again.
Well, thank you, and thank you to our viewers for tuning in and investing in your own success. The Sales Mastery Summit is here to help you never stop learning from the best. Take care.